Welcome to Matinee Heroes presents Cast Off. I am your host, Craig Price, and we have a great show for you today. We've got two great, amazing podcasters to join us today to do a movie that is amazing in itself and is actually starting to get some heat on its own as they start to talk about precasting for our prequel. So let's meet our challengers. Right off the bat, we've got Rob Ervin from the Clubhouse podcast. Rob, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
You look and sound great.
I'm old and I have a lot of hair.
Yeah, well, be thankful, man. Be thankful for every strand you've got.
I have now worked myself into J. Jonah Jameson territory, I think.
Oh, you're getting angry and you're just chomping on cigars all day?
Yes, and acting like Alex Jones, apparently.
Oh, yeah, you do live in that area of the world, don't you? So tell me about the Clubhouse podcast.
The Clubhouse podcast is your one-stop shop for all things pop culture. We handle movies, television, music, sports, tech. It's every Sunday night, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on the Vocal Network. It's Vocal with a K, VOKAL now.com. You can follow us also on all your social media. The only difference is Twitter, where it's Clubhouse Show.
Well, and your opponent today is going to be another worthy adversary. We've got Derek McCaw from Fanboy Planet. And that also has the Fanboy Planet podcast. Derek, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking, and thanks for having me on tonight.
Explain your background. What do you got going on? I see a Superman. I see an old, was it is it Waldo? What's the one that the old Mickey?
Oswald.
Oswald.
Right?
See.
Oswald ears. There's Tron ears, and I think you see Plastic Man. And it's just a lot of things. All pop culture comes together in my apartment. So
explain Fanboy Planet for those of us who are unfamiliar with you.
Okay, the site has been around for 20 years, and the podcast has been around for 13. It is pop culture. I don't do sports and music. With my producer, Rick Bretschneider, we do interviews, movies, TV, and comics, and it's usually around a sci-fi and fantasy bent. I call it, it's for the well-rounded geek.
Well, this is the show that we take two contestants to duke it out by recasting your favorite actors in movies that you love. But we have some rules, and so let's get right to it. Well, I'm going to name an actor. Then the best choice gets 1 point. If perhaps you also get my secret selection, you get an extra bonus 1 point. Now, just because you have the best choice and you get, say, your Craig's secret selection doesn't mean it's going to be the best choice, as we learned last week when we had Stephen Condrick pick. We had him pick Gary Oldman for a Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I loved, but Tracy Mangum came in with a Ben Kingsley, and you can't go against Ben Kingsley, so 2 points were awarded, one each. So there is a way that you can get 2 points in a bonus round, so you're never really out of it until you get out. Now, obviously, person with the most points wins. That's how games are played. And if there is a tie, since you both have been on the podcast, you know what the double feature means. That means on the spot, you're going to have to pick a double feature that is not a Mad Max movie to go with this, if there is a tie. So, gentlemen, are you ready for today's game?
Let's do it.
Yes.
Derek is enthused. I can feel it. I can see him.
There's
He's so
tension.
excited.
I'll do it. Yeah. I'll get closer.
Now, before we start, though, I do want to remind folks that this weekend, Saturday, as a new episode of Matinee Heroes, the Three Musketeers. And I don't want to say this is an advantage because Rob Ervin, you were on this week's episode of the Three Musketeers of 1993.
So much fun. God,
so this game is rigged, is what you're saying?
But it's not rigged because in 2 weeks, first comes Rob, then comes Derek. Derek, you're going to be on in 2 weeks for Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Oh, that's going to be great.
Another great movie. So if you have not, you can subscribe to the podcast at Matinee Heroes /subscribe to the podcast, or just go to any podcatcher you have and put in Matinee Heroes. We're everywhere. And if you want to subscribe to this show, the video show, just go to Matinee Heroes /CastOFF, and there you'll have access to YouTube, Twitch, all those good places. So the reason why we did this is because in the news, I guess earlier in the month, George Miller said he's going to do a prequel, and everybody started to go crazy and start to go, who's going to be the next Furiosa? Because Charlize Theron is not going to do it. And I kind of don't blame her after getting her head shaved. And I think she literally lost an arm in this movie because that's the kind of actress she is. So because everyone's recasting Furiosa, I thought, let's do this, and let's do Mad Max Fury Road. So this is an instant classic. Came out 5 years ago, and it's still stunning. Rob, you saw this for the first time over the weekend.
I did, and I've had a lot of people say to me, dude, what took you so long? Stuff. That's all I can say. I have no excuses. This movie, I said on Facebook the other day, when it was over, my home theater system needed a cigarette. I mean, this film, visually stunning. The audio track was nothing short of brilliant. I've actually went out and I got all 4 of the Mad Max movies last week, so I've watched 3 of the 4. I have not gotten to Thunderdome yet, but man, this movie, it kept me the whole time. I mean, it was just nonstop, pulse-pounding action, if I have to use a cliche. I mean, it's just that good.
Well, settle down, because we can get all the reviews at the Clubhouse podcast. I just wanted to say, I just wanted to, yes, I saw it. It was great. But
it was amazing.
With Rob, you never get just the one-word answer. So we're going to start off with what we call, and I don't think they mentioned his name, but his last name is Rockatansky. So it's Max Rockatansky.
I believe, yeah, that's pretty close.
Played by Tom Hardy. So Rob, you go first. Who do you have for Mad Max?
This one took me a while because you've got to follow Mel Gibson and Tom Hardy, but I went with one of the stars from Sons of Anarchy, Charlie Hunnam was my choice for Mad Max. Do you want me to go into the why? Or
yeah, absolutely. Because first off, if you haven't watched Sons of Anarchy, because not everybody does, it's a biker movie, and he does have biker good looks. He was in King Arthur, which I don't think anybody saw. He was in the original Pacific Rim, which if you have not seen, you absolutely should. That's great. And then, of course, we did this for the podcast, Children of Men, where he had a small part in that. But Charlie Hunnam, quickly, side note, is a very good human being. A couple years ago, there was a Space City Con in Houston, which we don't want to talk about, but they basically was supposed to have a Sons of Anarchy reunion. They kind of ripped off everybody, including the Sons of Anarchy, which I never recommend. Don't ever get guys who look like bikers upset because they act like bikers. But Charlie Hunnam came back to Comicpalooza the following year for free and sat and signed anybody who had tickets to Space City Con, and he sat and got the pictures. All of it was reimbursed. He was a great guy. So just on a human level, a wonderful human being. But as an actor level, don't really know him that much. So why did you pick him?
Well, he wasn't my original choice, and I'm going to hold on to that in case it's Derek's, and I would feel bad if my first choice wasn't there. But
thank you, you're a gentleman.
But for me, Charlie Hunnam, he's just got that grizzled look to him that he can play dark and brooding, but heroic at the same time. So as I was going through this wasn't the one I deliberated over the most. That's going to come here in a little while. But I just felt that if you're going to follow those two guys in that role, I wanted to keep it in the same vein. And I think Hunnam could pull off that silent, because if you think about it, in the first 2 movies, Mel Gibson has a total of like 30 lines total. And so you've got to be able to express yourself in a role like this. And I think Hunnam can do that to the nth. If Hardy didn't want to do it again, I would go straight to him.
And Hardy was perfect for this particular role because he is a marble-mouthed monkey. And if he doesn't talk, he's great. He's one of those guys, the less he talks, the better he is, because he's got that.
Well, he was in one of my favorite movies from a few years ago, Warrior. Wasn't it that him and...
Yep, and Jake Gilligan.
No, I'm thinking of the MMA movie.
Oh.
That wasn't Gyllenhaal.
That was, we just talked about this. It was Joel Edgerton.
Joel Edgerton, there you go.
We just talked
Loved that movie, and I thought he's just a guy that I would cast him in anything just because he's just got that presence, and I'm a big fan.
Well, we go to Derek. Now, Derek, you had a different take on Mad Max. So,
right, I believe in CastOFF. I'm allowed to travel through time and space, and I chose Humphrey Bogart.
Ooh, nice call.
As Max Rockatansky.
So that's why I specifically tried to find a picture of him from Treasure of Sierra Madre, because I think his character is perfect for that, which we've covered both the Treasure of Sierra Madre and Maltese Falcon on the podcast. What makes Humphrey Bogart stick out to you?
Well, as you say, he's known for tough guy roles, and yet there are moments in Fury Road where I think Max has a lot of sensitivity, and you've got one of those soulful looks that he could give too. So he was tough, but he was sensitive. He was kind, and he doesn't take any crap from anybody in most of his movies that he's known for. You know, it's you use Treasure Sierra Madre, but I think with Casablanca, you know, so that's why.
I think that's a great one. So let's take a look on the scoreboard. We've got Charlie Hunnam, strong choice. We got Humphrey Bogart, a legendary choice. But I think I'm going to have to go with Charlie Hunnam, because if you're going to really have someone who looks like he's been on the desert for years and has been tough, and I think he's got more of that well-worn look than Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart has that I've been in the city smoking cigarettes and drinking whiskey worn look. where Charlie Hunnam's got that I've been out on the Australian outback scumbag look. I had Richard Burton. I'm kind of going with you on this one, Derek, in the way that I'm going old school, but I thought Richard Burton, liquor him up as much as we possibly can and get him out there, let him rant and rave, and I think that would be a really good, even though he's only got 8 lines. Well, next we get to Furiosa, or as she is called, Imperator. How do you say her name? Imperator?
Imperator, I think is what they did.
Imperator Furiosa. We know her as Furiosa. And anybody who's ever listened to the podcast knows how much I am in love with Charlize Theron. Regardless if she has hair, whether half her head is spray painted, whether she has an arm or not, she is the perfect lady. She's very talented, does all the action. It's going to be hard to find a replacement for her. So whoever they've got, the Killing Eve lady, she's got some tough shoes to fill. So we're going to go with Derek first. Derek, knowing that she is as iconic as she is, who have you decided to go with as Furiosa?
Katharine Hepburn.
Now,
very nice.
This one, and I wanted to find a nice short hair picture of her because she's going to have to shave her head. And you know what? She's going to be able to kick ass on this one. I've got her she's known for on Golden Pond. Oh, Norman, you old poop. She's African Queen. Guess who's coming to dinner? Again, you are not hesitating to go with some big guns, Derek.
No, and I would also add in the Philadelphia Story, Bringing Up Baby. She's got crazy down pat. She's strong-willed. Her work in the 30s and early 40s too is just terrific. And the only time that I think Katharine Hepburn was not just sealing the scene from everyone was when she was in a project she didn't like that the studio made her do.
And what was that?
Oh, it's early movies in the early 30s,
oh,
and
yeah.
whichever one broke her contract, and she went back to Broadway for a few years because the studios didn't want to work with her in the 30s.
She's absolutely one of the most talented people. In fact, she was picked, I believe, last week for Princess Leia. So this is back-to-back weeks with Katharine Hepburn. So you can't.
She's a classic.
You can't go wrong with her. Rob, who do you got?
Well, my challenge when I do these, and you'll probably hear this on Saturday when you hear the Three Musketeers, is I try to limit it to current actors and actresses. Try to challenge myself a little bit to narrow the list. I kind of went to an action heavy here. She's played Sarah Connor, so why not let her play Furiosa? I said Lena Headey.
Now, Lena Headey, she is, she can do it. Game of Thrones. She's 300. Yes, she's known for, the icky whole arc with her brother. Those people in Westeros are weird. But yes, she is definitely someone who can kick butt and take names, and you can't go wrong with her either. So this is
that Terminator seller Sarah Chronicles show would cut way too short.
She's amazing in Dread.
Oh yeah, she's amazing in everything she does.
Yeah.
So let's take a look. We got Katharine Hepburn, and we got Lena Headey. And only because I know that she can do action am I going with Lena Headey. I mean, I don't think Katharine Hepburn couldn't do it. But, again, I also feel like she's a little bit more aristocratic, a little more elitist. She's got that East Coast elite going.
But just wait till the apocalypse.
It would still take my money for it. I'd go see Katharine Hepburn play that role.
Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn in Mad Max Fury Road? I'm not saying I wouldn't pay good money for that. I want a time machine just for that. But I do think Charlie Hunnam and Lena Headey, so far, that's the two to beat. I went with Jane Fonda.
Nice call.
Barbarella types. Now we move on to Nux. Good old Nux, played by Nicholas Hoult. And we go back to Rob. Rob, who do you have playing the spray painting, eating, what a lovely day yelling blood bag?
This was the hardest one for me. I wrestled with this one for a long time, and part of it was the physical part of it. Part of it was the creepiness factor, but I settled just because of his portrayal on Gotham with Cameron Monaghan. His portrayal of the Joker on Gotham, once it hit me, yeah, right, Joker in quotes, right? I think he absolutely could play this role with that same level of creepy, that same level of intensity, and the overall spirit of Nux in this.
And I have to say, because I put it in here, Star Wars Fallen Jedi, one of the best games of 2019, and he does a hell of a job in it. It's actually a better Star Wars movie than The Rise of Skywalker. So the fact that I think he's really good. His Joker though. Now, was it actually Joker? I didn't end to watch the last season because the
last episode he became Joker.
Oh, did it? Yeah, I skipped the last season. It just got so far off the rails.
No, the last season was the good season. All right, I skipped the rest of it.
All right, I'll go back and catch the last season then.
Yeah.
Well, Derek, I appreciate you telling me that because I also jumped ship at the last season, mostly because I had moved. I just, once you move and you got to get the cable reinstalled and all that stuff, you kind of...
And then Gotham gets left behind. I understand.
So yours is a very interesting one. Who do you have as Nux?
My choice is, first of all, I love Nicholas Hoult, but I chose Mickey Rooney.
Now, Mickey Rooney, for those of you who don't know, and he likes to, I guess Dana Carvey would tell you that he always reminded, he was the biggest actor in the world in 1938 to 1941. In the world. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 years, 2 decades. That's what he said on The Simpsons.
Yeah. It was with National Velvet with Elizabeth Taylor. Of course, a very disgusting misstep at Breakfast at Tiffany's. And then, of course, a lot of kids would know him in the 70s and 80s as a Disney staple. In movies like The Black Stallion.
Yes, but there was a darkness to him off screen, but his swagger, his bragging about his life, especially in the 30s and 40s when he would have been closer to Nicholas Holt's age, I kind of thought it did make me laugh to put him in the role, but the more I thought about it, it's like he had this gosh OG persona, and he talked about being just he was raging, by our terms, he was quite the party boy in the 30s, and he liked his fame, and he took it to its full advantage. So he didn't get to play the darkness too often, and I think he could have. He'd be fun in that role.
Well, that was definitely something I was not expecting. That's why I love doing the recasting, because there's things out there that I'm not thinking of. We had Cameron Monaghan, we got Mickey Rooney. I think Derek, I don't think you're surprised. I gotta go Cameron Monaghan.
I'm gonna lose this game. I understand.
No. You still got a chance because there's still 4 points total possible on the board. I went with Brad Dourif, a very young.
Interesting.
I would say One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest era Brad Dourif, because we just did that for the podcast in, I believe, January or maybe February, and I forgot because we see him now, and he's always playing villains and weirdos and things. I forgot what a strikingly good-looking young man he was. He wasn't classically handsome, but he looked like if he could have been in The Outsiders very easily. He had that rough boy look that was in. You shave his head and spray paint his face, we'll go for it. All right. So then we go to Derek. Next up, hold on a second here. We're going to go back. See, this is why I need an assistant, but we don't have that kind of money.
Someday.
We're going to go with the main baddie and heavy metal frontman, Mortan Joe. He looks like he should be playing for Megadeth or something.
I'd say just give us another month in lockdown. This is what we're all going to look like.
A little guar action.
Yeah. Well, this is how my hair is starting to look like. Good Lord. Yeah. I definitely need to get a haircut. That's the only thing I'm worried about. Everything else I don't care about, but I'm not going to run out and get my hair cut until they open it. But I certainly would like them to open it soon. So who do you have playing the main bad guy who, I guess he just kind of yells out things like mediocre and does a lot of booming voice stuff, but not a lot?
I went with Claude Rains.
Now, this one was what I would call inspired casting, because we all know Claude Rains from Casablanca, but I forgot that he was the Invisible Man.
He's the Invisible Man. Yes.
He was in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. I do remember, because we did Lawrence of Arabia, I think last year. I remember him being in that near the end of his life. He would definitely bring a different spin on this, because he's known for being a cultured villain.
Well, and I prefer, because my villain's cultured. I think there's something more evil about somebody who knows better. A strongman bully, but also Claude Rains is one of my all-time favorite actors, because he was the Phantom of the Opera in one version as well.
I think I read something like that. He might have
1941 or 1942. So he ran through the Universal monsters, Invisible Man and that.
I know he was John Talbot in The Wolfman.
Yeah,
he wasn't
right.
Larry Talbot. He was. I think.
He was Larry's dad. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing too. He was somehow ageless. He looks pretty much. He can play a young man. He can play an old man, and that's kind of you've got Immortan in the name. So I just think there'd be something kind of interesting to the movie if Immortan Joe was somewhat urbane.
So I'm going to have you put on your art director's hat just for a second, and very briefly tell me what he's going to look like, because he's not going to be that long-haired, face mask wearing, muscle-bound Bane kind of screaming guy.
I think you're underestimating what he would do. No, but again, he played the Phantom, so he'd probably have that some kind of mask. I think his was the full, more like a Phantom of the Paradise thing, and so not quite the Broadway version. He was hideously scarred, so he could do that. Like he probably went through a fire, and he would control with complete just psychological magnetism.
I think that's exactly right. I think maybe he got close to the guitarist and got his face burnt.
Yeah, I'd see that. Yeah.
So, Rob, Claude Rains, beat that, buddy.
I'm glad Derek went first in this round, because I felt bad for double dipping a show. So Derek having gone back to the Casablanca well kind of makes me feel a little bit better. As the entire time I was watching this movie, in the back of my head, I was trying to go through the cast, and I kept going back to this actor from a physical standpoint. Plus, he knows how to play a dirtbag, as he showed in another series that just debuted about 6 months ago. And I went with Mark Boone Jr., also from Sons of Anarchy, but more recently from The Mandalorian. It just, my brain kept going back to him. And, The Quick and the Dead, a very underrated film, in my opinion.
A movie we did
that's
here
one
on
of
the
those,
podcast.
I remember the theater I saw it in.
Yeah.
It made such an impression on me. And Batman Begins, of course, because my Batman obsession kicks in here as well.
Yeah, that's why I put The Quick and the Dead in there, because we definitely covered that one. He's got a very small part in that, because Gene Hackman is the main thing in that. I don't care about Leo. I don't care about Sharon Stone. Even Russell Crowe, I don't really care about. Gene Hackman is that movie. One thing about Mark Boone, it doesn't matter where he is or what movie he's in or what he's doing, whether he's a detective in Batman, or I guess he's a biker in Sons of Anarchy, or he's a smuggler in space, he looks like he's been rolling around in the dirt for days. That's why I have him looking unwashed at all times. He kind of always looks like a grody little henchman.
Which is the Citadel.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, he fits right in. So
and if I'm not mistaken, the guy that played Immortan Joe, Hugh Keys Byrne, wasn't he Toe Cutter in the original?
Yes, he was.
Yes.
This was a nice little look. Like, see, someone actually watched all the movies this weekend.
Really?
All but one.
I can't take all four.
Yeah.
So we got Claude Rains, we got Mark Boone Jr., but I'm going to say, because I'm not a fan of Mark Boone Jr.'s look, I think he would be a henchman. He wouldn't be escalated up to the top. And I think Claude Rains, regardless of how big or small he is, would weasel his way to the front. I think Claude Rains would make a better bad guy.
There he is.
I'd like to thank my agent, first of all.
Yeah, you haven't won yet. You just won the
Dang
round.
it. Okay.
I'd like to thank my mama and Elvis.
Yeah. I had Danny Houston.
Yes.
Who plays a lot of bad guys. He was known, probably most of you will recognize him in Wonder Woman, where he played he's the MacGuffin bad guy. He's the bad guy we focus on, but he's not really the bad guy. And of course, he's played bad guys in X-Men. He took over Brian Cox's role. which is crazy because Brian Cox is amazing. But Danny Houston's great too.
And his grandfather was in The Treasure of Sierra Madre, so we do have a Humphrey Bogart connection.
Oh, lots of them. They're all over the place. The Houston family is royalty.
Yes.
You ain't lying.
Well, now we have an unusual one because we've not done this yet on the show, and this is what we're doing as a collective. We're doing The Wives, but we're not doing all 5 because that'd be too long. I just wanted 3 because the rule of threes, what 3 ladies would be great as the wives? And so we're going to start off with Rob. Rob, you've got 3. What was your mindset when you were thinking of the wives? What kind of, before we say which ones they were, what kind of actresses were you looking for?
I wanted 3 actresses that could do both tough and could pull off. I wanted one that was tough, one that could pull off the naivete of some of the wives, but I also wanted a good mix. I mean, when you look at who was in this thing, Rosie, I can't remember her last name. It's hyphenated. Zoe Kravitz was one of the wives. So I really kind of wanted to get into that, knowing that you could have the tough girl, you could have the girl that could be the naive girl, you could have the girl that could be the feisty girl. So that's really kind of where I went with my selections.
So you kind of went with a cinematic Spice Girls kind of situation.
Almost, yeah, without the heels.
Without the heels. So let's go one at a time, real quick through the 3. We have
for the one to pull off the naivete, I went with Elle Fanning. She does that role very, very well, in my opinion. Now, she could still play the tough chick, but I feel like for the naivete, she was perfect.
She's doing a great job in The Great. My wife is watching that currently, and I popped in. It's not something
that just dropped, didn't it?
Yeah, on Hulu.
Yeah,
Hulu. Mm-hmm. It's on Hulu, and she's doing really well. It's rather graphic and sexualized. I didn't really think that they were going to be saying such words and things. I learned a couple new words that I won't say here because I don't want to ruin our YouTube rating. I'll tell you maybe in the after show. But
the dark side of Downton Abbey.
Yeah. But she's convinced me because I wasn't 100% when I saw this one. I wasn't 100% sure she could play the tough because no matter who you pick, they have to be tough at some point in the movie. Mm-hmm. Either they learn to be tough or they're tough right away. And I didn't think she could be, but I was wrong. Next we have
Taylor Momsen. I remember her, and I will always remember her as Cindy Lou Who in Jim Carrey's The Grinch. And about 5 years ago, I saw this picture of her because when I saw The Grinch, I was like, I feel bad for her dad because at some point he's going to have to tell her no.
My wife's, when she was a kid, looks like Cindy. I call her Cindy Lou Who at Christmas time because that's when she was a little girl, she kind of looked like that, and I thought it was especially that little curl she's got in the front.
Yeah.
Wow, she grew up.
Now, as the lead singer of a band called The Pretty Reckless, she has found the dark side. And I feel like that toughness to her comes through if you watch some of their videos. Like fear is not in her vocabulary at all. And it really shows nowadays in her musical talents. And I think she would be a great addition to this cast.
And finally, we have Madeline Petsch, who looks familiar, but I didn't do enough research. So where did you pick
Riverdale, my friend?
Riverdale.
Yeah.
Cheryl Blossom. Right?
Cheryl Blossom on Riverdale. She is conniving, but knows how to make you believe she is innocent. And I believe that is really one of the things that helps balance this trio together. Like she'll give you that innocent smile while she's throwing the bladed boomerang from the Road Warrior around so it takes your head off.
I'm starting to realize this was creepy to have 2 old guys do this with this.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Craig.
The 3 of us old guys.
Oh no, you're the one that he's not talking about when he said 2, Derek. Yeah. You're good.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, that rarely happens.
So Derek, let's get to you. Again, you've got a theme going.
I went through the exact same thought process that Rob did. With my choices, but I do have a theme going, so they had to be from film noir. So my choices are, I don't know which order you have the photos, but
the order that you sent them in.
Okay, so Lauren Bacall,
yep,
who would be the tough one. That's my Taylor Momsen.
There's no one tougher than her. She
no.
is. I mean, she's gorgeous, she's smart, and she's tough. This is a reason why she and Bogey were together, is because she was probably the only woman that could probably handle him and put him in his place.
Yes. My next choice would be Madeleine LeBeau.
Now, she is unfamiliar to me.
She is in Casablanca. She is the French girl who leaves Les Marseillais against the Nazis, but she plays very naive and innocent, and is fine with the Nazis until she realizes what they've really done to her homeland.
So, Derek, would you put her in the role with the
that would be my Elle Fanning.
Go back.
That would be my Elle Fanning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Something naive there. And my last choice would be Mary Astor.
Oh, nice.
So from the Maltese Falcon, also kind of like Madeleine Petch. She can pretend that she's innocent, but she can pull a knife on you. Oh. So it's just funny how our thought process were identical, but almost a century apart.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Oh, man. This one was a tough one because you guys did fantastic. So real quickly, Elle Fanning, Taylor Momsen, and Madeleine Petch. If you're going to do it now, and if you're going to redo this, these are perfect. These are great. Now, if you want to go back, you came with some heavy hitters at the end here, Derek. You didn't hold back because all three of these ladies
finishing strong.
I came to win. I don't know what I'm winning, but I came to win.
Fortune and glory, my friend. Fortune and glory.
Woohoo! It's a great graphic novel by Brian.
Will be celebrated in Valhalla.
Ooh!
Yes.
I'm so chrome.
You have three ladies that could be leads on their own. I'm not sure that Tyler Momsen and Madeleine Petch could be leads. I don't, because I'm not familiar with them. I know Elle Fanning can. I've seen her. But just on sheer star power, caliber, and class, I had to go with Derek. But since I didn't pick because I didn't want to pick three, there was no way you're going to get three. Never mind one. Rob, you have won today's cast off. Congratulations. So, as we do when we do anything, we have our final thought. So what is your final thought, Rob, that you've won your edition of Cast Off?
I talked to some friends of mine that were going back and forth on my Facebook page. One loved this film and one didn't. And I just don't see how you can't love this film if you are in any form, shape, or fashion of geek culture. This film plays out like a graphic novel. And it's very few filmmakers can pull that look off. And I feel like George Miller just absolutely crushes it with this film on every level. This is a movie that I can watch over and over and over again and find something new every time.
You need to unfriend that person right now because that's not a friend you need in your life.
Well, it's funny because the comment that he made turned out to be a spoiler. And not realizing I hadn't seen the film yet.
Then you do need to unfriend that person. Yes. How dare they?
No, he apologized profusely, and he is one of my dear friends who I love greatly. Kenley, if you're watching this, I love you, brother. But I was like, no, it's cool. I get it. It's 5 years. I haven't seen this film before now. I have to kind of shoulder a little bit of the blame on that. It took me a half a decade to see it.
5 years is
gosh, I love this movie.
Oh,
I can't wait to dig into the extras on it.
It's a beautiful movie. It's one of the few movies I've seen like in the first 2 weekends. My wife and I went to go see it opening night. We immediately went to go see it the next day, and then we both went back to see it again like a week later. And then when the black and white version, because it's a beautiful...
I'm really looking forward to seeing that version of it.
It's beautiful in color. It's amazing in color. It is like a graphic novel. It's like a piece of art. But in black and white, it's just as good because it's just, well, let's start this thing and let's not stop until it's done. And then once you're done, you just got to take a nap because it was a lot. But I want to thank you guys for coming on. And if you like the show, you can follow us on Matinee Heroes, at Matinee Heroes on Twitter. You can always catch it on twitch.tv/Matinee Heroes. Come join the Facebook group. The Facebook group where we promote what the podcasts are coming up. We promote the shows. At some point, if the pandemic ends and the economy comes back and I can get in a couple extra bucks, I will pay to upgrade so I can start putting stuff on groups and pages. And then, of course, you can go to matineeheroes.com/castoff for the easiest way to get to our YouTube channel because we don't have enough followers to get our custom page yet, but someday soon. Guys, I really appreciate you being here. Rob, you're going to be on this weekend. So
yeah, looking forward to it. Derek, I loved being on the show with you. You did a great job, sir.
It was wonderful to meet you, and this was great. Thanks for the lift right before the middle of the week.
Yeah. So I'm trying to. If you liked Rob, you can hear him. You can hear him this weekend, this Saturday, where he does the Three Musketeers, or we like to call it Young Swords. And then, of course, if you liked this guy right here, Derek, he joins. Alan comes back. Alan is back, and we talked about Godzilla, King of the Monsters, where I think we actually recast Godzilla at one point.
We did.
We did.
Or we will.
Very
I always
much
time travel in my podcast. I don't know. It was 2 weeks from now and 3 weeks back.
I know it's time is relative here in the post-corona world.
Yes.
But thank you guys for coming on, and we will see you soon.
All right. Honored to be here. Had a great time. Thanks, man.